Hey, William Gilmore here for the ScreenwritersJourney.com. It is day 150, and that marks unofficially 5 months into the journey. We're still a couple of days away from the end of January, so that will be the official 5-month mark. But 150, it's pretty much 5 months. Almost halfway through the journey. Wish I could say I was further along than I am. Made some good progress early on. We've slowed down lately. Just due to life and work concerns and having to pay the bills. But we're struggling through. We're trying to make it. Tonight, I took in some of that restructuring that I did on come-ups, trying to place a little more emphasis on my new protagonist, Riddell. And the reading went fairly well. It's a group called Rewrites. I found them through MeetUp. And they meet at the farmer's market. Over near the Grove, and they get to use the community room there. It's really kind of a cool little setup that they have going. Very small group. We only had about 6 people there, which was kind of nice. Usually, a lot of the writers groups that I've been to have been these big, elaborate things like Tuesdays at 9, which has a huge turnout. Great writers, great actors. Here at Rewrites, they really didn't have any actors. It was all writers, so when you pass out the pages to read, it's the other writers who are doing the reading. So you're not necessarily getting the greatest performances, but you do get to hear the words out loud. You sort of get a feel for the flow. And they do something a little bit differently here. They actually provide feedback, and they do 3 rounds of it. The first round, each person gets 2 minutes to talk about what they liked about the script that was brought in. The second round is 2 minutes, what you didn't like about the script. And in the third round, you sort of get to offer your constructive criticism and what you think should be done with the script and what direction it should go in. What I took in tonight was actually 8 pages, just over onto page 9. I wasn't real happy with the scene with when Shep goes to Grady's house to inform him that they're wanted for questioning. That scene's just not working for me yet in this new structure because I took away all the impetus for him to be there early on in the rewrite and the restructuring. There's a different sense of stakes, of panic, of what they need to do. There's just that we didn't have in the earlier scene. So I think where it's going is going to be good. It's just not there yet. So I didn't want to take those particular pages in because I knew they weren't right. So what we had was picking up from Riddell and Kalita when Riddell gets home and tells her that there's been problems. Everybody's dead. I've lost the money. I've lost the drugs. Hiram's got somebody watching the house. I don't know what to do. We can't leave. We can't go anywhere. Kalita's in a panic. And then we cut to, and this is where the reading picked up tonight, the press conference that Sheriff Hiram is giving about the death of his deputies and who they're looking for, and basically starting to spin his side of the story to cover his own tracks. And originally this was sort of, this little bit, this press conference was happening with Grady and Shep. Shep is at Grady's house, sitting by his bedside, waiting for him to sort of wake up post-surgery, the improvised surgery that they did in the garage. And it's been 3 days in the original version. And that 3 days always kind of bothered me because surely Kalita and Riddell could have figured out a way to escape somehow in that 3-day period. So I've had the press conference now as a standalone. That keeps the story in the Riddell-Hiram world. It keeps our story focused there instead of switching in this sort of drawn-out exposition story with Grady and Shep. It goes right to that press conference, and he lays out his theory of what he thinks happened, and I'm looking for these 3 guys in a boat. And we cut to Shep sitting in his home watching this on TV going, oh my God, they're onto us, they're after us. I need to let Grady know. I need to go wake him up. So by condensing that 3 days into one day, into the same day, it keeps the energy going, the emotions going, a lot more panic from our characters. It also keeps it sort of in the Hiram Raydell world for this scene instead of cutting right to Grady and Shep. And then from there, instead of following Shep to Grady's house, we go back to Kalita and Raydell, who are watching Buck watch them. He's on surveillance outside the house. We've also set up in that, right after that press conference, Hiram meets with Deputy Jason and wants to know if he's got the information for him. Yes, I've got the information. We don't know exactly what that information is yet. He opens it and starts to read it. He goes, looks like Buck's been up to some bad things. We sort of had a hint of that back at the crime scene when Raydell tells Hiram that Daryl was trying to shake them down. And we find out that Buck was Daryl's good friend. And Daryl says some things, not Daryl, Buck says some things that sort of raise an eyebrow with Hiram. So now we're getting the information. We don't know what that information is yet, but he says we need to get Buck in tonight and have a little talk with him. So things aren't going to go well for Buck. And so we cut to that scene with Kalita and Raydell watching Buck. The whole Elena scene happens. We're raising the stakes. We're amping everything up again, keeping things up at a high level instead of letting them drop. And then we go into, from there we go to, we would go to Shep going to Grady's house to let him know. And then we've got to find my brother. I did a rewrite of Tyler buying his truck that in this new restructuring I'm probably not going to be able to use, which is fine because I think it works very funny in the way I had the scene at the strip club that's coming up rewritten. That's when Grady and Shep discover that Tyler's been spending the money on a truck. It was a very funny little moment. Showed their exasperation, their desperation, their panic at what's going on. And it did so in a kind of a comic way, which is nice because we needed some of that comedy. Excuse me. This little scene where we see him buying the truck is also very comic. So when I jumped over I just left out that scene with Shep and Grady where Shep shows up to tell him that they're wanted. Instead I said, well, let me just see how this little scene works. And so I took in that scene with buying the truck. It worked very well, I have to say. It was very funny. And I hate to lose it now that I see how well it works, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to lose it. It's because once these guys decide they need to find Tyler, we can go right to the strip club scene. It sort of condenses a few pages, gets me closer to my page count. All those things are good. The feedback from the reading went really well. Everyone really liked the flow. They got a good sense of who everybody was. Considering they knew nothing about the story and we're jumping in around page 40, they seemed to pick up on everything really well. And they liked the differences in all the characters. And they really got a sense of the idea that Raydell was the protagonist just from this little sequence, that he's among the high stakes and that there's these three interlopers who've made off with his money and he's got to go and find them or else deal with the sheriff directly. And that probably won't be good. So they got all that from those 10 pages. So that little restructuring seems to have shifted the focus a bit. I need to go back and look at the first act and make sure my focus is a little stronger on Raydell and not the guys in the boat. But I think it went well. And so we'll probably go back there again, take in some more pages. The good thing about doing something like that is that it forces me to sit down and write because it's a deadline. I know I've got, I did it last night. I had to stay up late. But I knew I was taking those pages in tonight, so I had to stay up and get those done. So signing up for the writers groups is a good idea because it forces you to have pages ready. It's one of the problems with Tuesdays at 9 because you submit your 10 pages and you may not get up for a month. Just because they have so many people trying to get in. And sometimes you get 2 or 3 weeks back to back, and then you may go for another 3 or 4 weeks. Having this constant feedback could be a good thing. So this will be a nice sort of fill-in in between the Tuesdays at 9. I may try out a couple of other writers groups as well. Certainly got the IAW TV, but that's more web series based. So that may kick me in the butt a little bit and get me going if I sign up for these different groups and then forced to make these deadlines. So we're going to give that a shot and see what happens. Fairly pleased with how it went tonight. So hopefully over the weekend. Of course, Sunday is the big race. So I doubt there'll be much going on Sunday. That's the last day of the month. So I'm going to try and knock some stuff out on Saturday and see if I can get that the first 3/4 of the script in place. I still got to deal with that big scene at the end of the second act that I'm just not sure what to do with still, and that's kind of what's holding me up. But I can go back now that I kind of identified this protagonist thing and go back and do some reworking. Hopefully it'll be minor changes, just enough to sort of shift the focus a little bit and clean up the section I did tonight, and that should take me right up to that problem scene. So, and hopefully by doing this, a little bit of restructuring and stuff, that'll maybe give me an idea of what to do with that scene now that I'm looking at it from Ray Dell's perspective. So we'll see what happens. This is 150, so I'll be there 152. Will probably be my next, it'll be Saturday night, will probably be my next post. And we'll let you know what happens. Until then, I'm William Gilmore for thescreenwritersjourney.com. Please keep up your own writing. Let me know how it's going, and we'll try to support each other. All right? See you on day 152. Why is this not stopping?